It's time for sports with Dave Wood from Integrated Training. He's you might have seen his face around doing a little bit of work with well, a bunch of athletes around New Zealand, you know, mixed martial artists, surfers, kickboxers. I mean, Dave, how did you get into working with these guys? And I guess before that, what do you do?
Yeah, man, my background is working as an intensive care paramedic, so in the pre-hospital setting, and that was sort of, you have a background in health science, and that sort of rippled over into sporting performance, or sort of like any performance. So we don't just work with sport athletes, we work with anybody who is trying to optimize performance and health. And one of the things that we look at is things that are maybe left, especially with the fight athletes, because their camps are so busy and so full on. Sometimes we forget some of the more important aspects of performance, things like sleep hygiene, being able to regulate your nervous system, being able to understand and use stress to your advantage. So yeah, we take care of all that type of stuff.
Sounds pretty hectic and just way over something I could comprehend. I know a lot of people have seen, you know, a lot of the breath work you do, a lot of the cool training where you get them in the sauna, in the ice bath, all that fun stuff, just making them experience somewhat unpleasant situations for a normal person. Can you just tell us a little bit about some of the advantages that you're able to get out of the athletes?
Yeah, I guess like with working with any person, it's not always a linear process, right? And I sort of come in working with any athlete with an open mind around how we're going to get some of these themes that we want to get across. And a lot of the time that requires unpeeling some layers, right? Getting to those deeper layers. And I always feel like you can tell someone something, or you can show them. So we like to do both. We like to get them to understand the underlying mechanism of what we're trying to achieve, which for these guys in their fight camp is all around better ability to regulate their nervous system, better ability to tolerate and use stress to their advantage, and better understanding of their mindset. So how they want to, basically establishing a mindset that will be productive in terms of how they respond to situations. And the way that I like to do it is to tease that out through the training. And a great way to do that is in the pool. And it might look like, you know, you're just crawling along the bottom of the pool, or you're doing a breath hold, or you're lying there relaxing, but actually there's a lot going on in terms of what's happening up here. And the cool thing about that is that you can, over time of you know, working with athletes or these fighters, is you can tease out some of the weaknesses and the strengths, and you can improve the weaknesses and sharpen the strengths. So yeah, it's a cool way to be able to have practical application, which is really important.
I know Kakara France has talked a lot about the work he's done with you and David Neath, particularly around developing his mindset and, you know, preparing for going into the trenches, going into those deep waters. With him in particular, have you seen, I guess, a shift in mentality since you've been working with him?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, if you're not evolving in the sport, you get left behind, right? And this is your most important asset in terms of performance. And if you think about the workload that these guys are going through, you know, all that work, all that strength and conditioning, all the skill and all that stuff they do in the gym, well, what we want to do is prepare this so that they can perform to their physical abilities and not let this get in the way. Otherwise, it just becomes work for work's sake, right? You do all that work and you get to fight day, but you're not balanced up here. You're not balanced in your nervous system and how you respond to things. And so it's such a huge part of, you know, sporting performance to get this stuff right. And Kai, like all of the guys we've worked with, have evolved. I mean, you can see it even week by week, right? Like the evolution is so fast, and that's what you have to do. And as you know, in combat sport, to stay relevant and to be at the very top.
We've seen things online, you know, I think it was today you posted Kai and BJ just having a float in the pool. We've seen things, the guys underneath the waterfall out at Piha, running up the dunes. I mean, it all seems like very, very easy and accessible ways to unlock all this in them. Is that kind of the case, or is that more just you wanting to work with what's available to you out at Piha and all the, I guess, the natural features that you've got to work with out there?
Yeah, a bit of both. The stuff is accessible to everybody. But in saying that, you know, the simple things, the most basic things are often the most difficult to get right, and we tend to skip over them, and that's where you start seeing imbalances creep in. And a lot of the work that we do is about going back to the fundamentals and getting the fundamentals right, because that's your foundation, right? And then build back up off there, and that can be quite challenging. But yeah, it's, you know, you see someone lying in the water and doing nothing, and you know, you just sort of skim past it, but actually there's so much going on, you know, and like with any performance, the most important thing is, you know, with any facet of performance, the most important thing is the build up, right? The build up to that thing, your processes and your systems that you put in place. So, you know, what they're doing in those moments is they're learning to get better internal focus. You know, they're using parts of their brain that are responsible for sustained focus, and in a fight, sustained focus is very, very important. You know, 20-25 minutes, if your focus wavers, then yeah, you're in trouble. So, you know, we can train those parts of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, that are associated with sustained focus. We can train parts of the brain that are responsible for conducting the stress response. And yeah, it's you know, we know how potent and powerful meditation is, and this is just what they're doing. It's just a form of meditation, creating one point of focus, and then we also give them things to work on, whether it be, you know, visualization, or working on their mindset, or working on their breathing, or working on relaxing their body. And it's normally a combination of all of those things. So whilst they're not moving and it doesn't look like much, there's a lot going on.
You mentioned visualization. I was just wondering if you've ever worked with an athlete or a person who is one of those people who can't visualize things in their head, and how you work around that.
Yeah, I think I don't think that exists. You know, everybody visualizes. I know what you're saying, but everyone, you know, that's our mind, right? That's tethered to our mind, and our thought processes, and our beliefs, and all of the stuff. So we're constantly visualizing, whether it be in the past or the future. Or what we want to try and do is create some protocols around that, so that we can use that technique to their advantage. You know, and there's yeah, I guess it really resonates with some people. Like doing visualization, others don't. So it's like what works for one athlete won't work for another athlete. And that's why it's so important to go into the stuff with you know, an open mind around how you work with people. And they're all individuals, right? Like even with the camp that we've just done with Israel and Carlos and Bloods, they're all totally different, unique human beings. So whilst we're giving them the same exercise, it's not the exercise, it's how you apply it to each of those individuals that's so important. And yeah, it's interesting, because those guys, you know, you got to be able to think on the fly, because you might have something that you are wanting to implement, and they turn up and they're just fried, right? And you can't add any more load, because their nervous system, you know, can't handle any more stress or any more input. And so it's about, yeah, understanding when to apply these exercises, not the exercise, how you apply it.
You made a really good point there about the guys coming in fry and trying not to put any more load on them. I think a lot of people look at the work you do with them and don't really think about, you know, the fact that it is a form of training their bodies, and it can be quite a draining process, right?
It's, I look at it as the ultimate form of strength training. And we have this perception of strength as just adding more load. Well, that ends up, a lot of the time, that ends up becoming the weakness. And a lot of the time is the strength is being able to identify when you need to focus on recovery and when you need to take some of the load off. But yeah, I view this work as like strength training for the mind and strength training for your nervous system. And you know, the mind and the body are tethered. If the mind is agitated, that causes physiological stress, and if the body's agitated, that'll agitate your mind. So it's about having control, what we call bottom-up control of stress, and which is controlling your body to control your mind, but also top-down control of stress, controlling your mind to control your body. And you know, when they're underneath the pool and they're doing that work underneath the pool, man, it's a quiet place, and the stress can come in pretty quickly. And it's what you do with that, and that is, you know, your perception of it, your self-talk. That is top-down control. So it's a great place to practice top-down control of stress when you're under the water, because this is all you've got, right? You can't use your breathing and things like that. So, and then when they come up and they recalibrate, it's all about using their bodies to control stress. How do you do that when the pool body's coming up and recalibrating with your breathing? We're trying to train patterns of behavior that then they can exhibit in a dynamic setting. For these guys, it's inside the octagon, right? We want to establish these patterns in the fight camp, because that's what the brain does. It just recognizes patterns of behavior, so that when they go back to the corner, they have a protocol, a system that they can use. Because when you have protocols and systems, just like a business, you know, that's the structure. And for these guys, it's about confidence, having those protocols and systems that they can use, you know, when their backs might be up against the wall or when things get stressful. They've done it before, and they've routinely practiced it.
I see you get in the pool with the boys from time to time as well. Is that an important part for you, to be able to, I guess, join them in what they're doing?
I think, man, if you're not doing it, because for me, like, if I'm standing on the side of the pool and I'm telling them what to do, I can't get a feel for it. When I'm in the pool and I'm doing it, I get a feel for it, right? So you can get way better flow with how that workout goes. And yeah, I love doing it like at the same time, and it allows me to be more creative with, because I'll often not have, you know, a plan. The plan evolves as you get through the workout, and you get a feel for, like, you get a better feel when you're in there doing it for how everyone's responding to the stuff.
Is there one particular exercise that you find works, or is the easiest to implement at like the bottomest level for maybe just a general person to try?
I don't know if it's the easiest, but I think it's the best, is to learn to be able to use like these intricate body systems that we have, that are designed, very intricately designed, to be able to deal with stress and pressure and fear and apprehension and tension. But unfortunately, we all too often look externally in the forms of like medication or alcohol or food or whatever it might be. You know, like if we just could have more awareness of, you know, how equipped we are to deal with this stuff. But most people don't even know how to tap into it. Yet people are so confused. You know, we've never been in a time where you've opened a can of worms here, bro. We've never been in a time where there's so much information out there around health and food, but because there's so much information, we've become confused. You know, we've become confused about how to breathe, how to eat, all the stuff that like is very fundamental. We've become quite confused about. So to answer your question, it's all about, like, you know, for example, you know, one of the things that we teach is to be able to regulate your nervous system and push into a calm state. The most efficient and effective way to do that is to regulate your breathing, is to self-regulate your breathing. And that's because the breathing is a direct line to your autonomic nervous system. So just to uncover that quickly, it's about, you know, if you can control your breathing rate, soften your breath, quieten your breath. We work on breathing cadences: inhale, hold, exhale, hold. And you do that for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, you're actually able to elicit a calm state in your nervous system. And once you elicit a calm state in your nervous system, that's incredibly powerful, because it down regulates some key body systems, like your blood pressure and your heart rate, your muscle tone, that help you get deeply relaxed and calm, and it frees up mental headspace. So yeah, man, available to everybody. Yeah, it's just about having an awareness around it.
You know, you hear a lot of people talking about just how important breathing actually can be. And I don't think people, like you say, I don't think people realize that that's a very good technique to sort of center yourself and I guess learn to deal with whatever might be thrown at you.
Yeah, I think like, well, it's like anything, man. There's so much information out there, and people are skeptical. People are really skeptical nowadays because we've been fed so much bullshit, and so yeah, people are skeptical, man. And what we have to do is change the language. You know, bring the language into a performance environment and use language that's not esoteric and, you know, talking about breathing into this and that, and you know, that's for some people, but it's definitely not for everybody. You know, you'll often hear things like breathe into your belly, and man, that makes no sense to me. Like, let's talk about this stuff in a performance with performance terminology. You know, talking about the diaphragm and lateral expansion, how important the diaphragmatic movement is for stability and power production. And, you know, once we start talking like that, people get interested. And also, like, explaining how you know, we can get better control of our own minds and our own bodies through tapping into these systems, these body systems that we have, you know. Yeah, I don't know if that answered the question or not.
I think so. In terms of the City Kickboxing boys, we had someone online want to know just how long you've been working with them, how you started working with them, and who was your first athlete from there that brought the rest of them along with them.
Yeah, probably, I think about 2 years. And how I got in there was I made a decision that I wanted to get in there. And then I didn't stop until I was in there. And yeah, that wasn't a linear process, but that decision was made on like, I was just like, I was intrigued and interested about, what do these guys do, man? What are they? Because I think from the outside looking in, there's this mystique about what these guys are doing in their fight camps and how these guys train. And so I was like naturally interested, and I wanted to get into like training athletes. And yeah, it just started, man, with one guy coming into the gym, one of the Tahitian boys that train there. There's a bunch of Tahitian guys that train there, training one of them, and then you know, they would tell someone else, and then Brendan, I can't call him Brendan because no one knows him by that name, Quicksand Bland, who's got a fight coming up in the PFL, and is an absolute machine. He started coming in, and I guess like he was a great guy to get into the gym because I wouldn't use the word skeptical, but you know, he's a pretty down-to-earth guy, and he's just like, he's no bullshit. So he started doing it, and he told the other boys, and then yeah, before long, a bunch of them were coming in, and it just sort of grew from there. But yeah, like the business isn't like directed towards like one thing like fighting, or like, man, I just want to work with people who are motivated to optimize performance. That's all it is. It doesn't have to be an athlete. We're all athletes. You know, you're an athlete, I'm an athlete. We're all just looking, like, actually when it comes down to it, when you strip it all away, we all just like are looking to optimize performance and health in whatever field we're doing or we're involved in.
Is there any particular sport or athlete that you're curious about now that you'd like to work with one day?
I find like, I don't know if there's any like particular sport, but I do find like I'm kind of like drawn towards, I guess, the sports that I'm interested in, surfing, skating, fighting. But I'm intrigued by all of these sports, man. I'm like, again, it like, to be honest, it's not really the sport, it's the person. Like, that's what motivates me, you know. It's not the sport. It's like, if I get someone in and they're motivated and they want to take this stuff on, like, I will match that intensity. I will match that. If someone comes in and they're not quite into it, then I'll match that. You know, I'm not here to motivate people. I'm here to match the input that they're putting in. So yeah, it doesn't matter what the sport is, man. It's all about like the person and how motivated they are and how open they are to to, these things aren't new, right? Like the stuff I'm doing, it's not new, but it's definitely like not at the forefront of most people's I guess their training, their week-to-week training. Yeah.
You just mentioned surfing. I know you live out of the beach, so you must have been pretty disappointed when COVID hit and the Piha Pro didn't get to go ahead.
Yeah, that was that was a big thing for Piha, and it was like this marquee was built, and we were all like, it was just right there, and then it was taken away. But I think they're running that again this year. I'm not too sure, but COVID lockdown was. Yeah, it was particularly unique out here at Piha because there was nobody out here, and the community is very small, and the surf was pumping, so it kind of divided the community about who was surfing and who wasn't surfing, and it was an interesting time. But also just being able to go down the beach and there being nobody, it's I found it like an incredibly calming time to be out here at the beach and on the coast and training and doing all the things that are good to do out here.
Understandable, man. I think that's all the time we need to take off your hands. If I have any other questions, I know where to find you. For anyone who does want to get in touch with you and maybe get along, try some of this out themselves, where can they go to get in touch?
Yeah, the website wmw.co.nz, and the Instagram is wmw_integrated_training. If you're a good bugger or you're motivated to train, then yeah, you fire through a message and have a yarn.
Sweet, man. Well, thank you very much for the time.
Yeah, thanks for your time, man. I really appreciate it.